Morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. I'm Hyunshim Amy Choi, the moderator of today's meeting. On behalf of the organizers of this workshop, I would like to welcome everyone to the sixth workshop on international labor migration statistics in Asia and the Pacific region for its last day's meeting. Over the past 3 days, we've covered important topics, including the conceptual and policy aspects of the international labor migration statistics, as well as their data collection from diverse sources. As informative as they were, we couldn't afford much time to listen from the floor. Today's sessions are designed to provide more opportunities to share insights not only from speakers, but also from each other. Therefore, I would like to encourage everyone to actively engage in exchanging your experiences and ideas today. Before we begin, allow me to remind you to keep your audio muted while when you are not speaking, while keeping your video on throughout this workshop. This, in fact, should be your default setting when you enter this Zoom meeting room. So please keep this setting until you're given the floor for speaking. Now, for our first speaker for today's meeting is Mr. Farhad Marin, external consultant for the ILO. Mr. Marin will provide information for Session 9, Measuring International Labor Migration, based on a combination of data sources for about 80 minutes until 8:50 Geneva time. During his presentation, you can send your questions to the moderator via the chat window, and I will invite 2 or 3 participants to take the floor in the order I receive their questions. Q&A will last for 10 minutes, and any remaining questions will be addressed in our website. Without further ado, let me invite Mr. Marin to begin Session 9.
Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as is usual to say now. I hope you hear my voice.
We hear you very well. Thank you.
First, I would like to thank the ILO and the COSTAT for holding this meeting in difficult conditions, but I think this condition will become normal and will not be difficult. At least it was not during the last 3 days, and I hope it will not be today. It is actually remarkable that we can talk with each other in different parts of the world. And for me, it's a great feeling to see so many friends and colleagues, including my ILO colleagues, whom I don't see that much anymore in Geneva, although I live in Geneva, but also others like Tuna Kamal in Turkey, Luzina Kalantari in Armenia, Iman Mahmoudi in Iran, and Ivan Hoffman in Norway, to whom I am indebted doubly. First, because we were colleagues together, but also because I learned from him some of the things I will be saying today. Now I will try to connect to my presentation. Does it come out well in your screen?
Yes, we see it well.
Thank you very much. I will be talking about a combination of sources. And as you'll see on the covering slide, I put draft because I hope to revise it based on the discussion today. And I also put the hour because it's unusual to hold in Geneva a meeting at that time. But I didn't put web meeting because I think this will become a norm in the future. So let me just say what I will what I will describe in this 1 hour or so today. First, I want to start with the ILO strategy on how to develop measurement methods or use existing methods for measuring international labor migration. Then I will propose a framework for combining data sources, either at the aggregate level or at the individual level. And then I will illustrate these in the case of Turkey and Korea. And then I will go further to show how other countries like Switzerland is doing combination of data sources in order to capture some difficult part of the international labor migration. In this case, the stock of international migrant workers category B, that is the non-resident foreign workers. And then at the end, I will make general remarks on how one should list and describe data sources on international labor migration in order to facilitate a combination of data sources. Now, the ILO strategy, which is written in a document which you see at the bottom of the slide, for development of methodology on measurement of international labor migration, is twofold. One is to analyze the existing data sources, alone or in combination, to see the limits of each source with respect to statistics of international labor migration. The other aspect of the strategy is to develop and test new measurement tools, which has been called for by the ILO guidelines. One of the paragraphs called for ILO to develop proper methodology, particularly for certain aspects of certain categories and subcategories of international labor migration, which are difficult to measure. I will be talking only on the first part today, on the analysis of existing data sources and the combination of existing data sources. The data sources that have been listed in the ILO guidelines in paragraph 54 are listed according to the type of statistics that they generate: stock statistics, flow statistics, and certain sources that combine both, and still other sources. We have, during this 3 days discussion, looked at many of these data sources, and in fact some others which were presented by Natalia and some still further by Ivan. I don't want to go through the existing sources, but because my talk is about the combination of data sources, but I thought it's good to know that there is and everybody knows that there is a multitude of data sources. In fact, sometimes I would say too many, which makes life confusing, as was mentioned by our colleague from India the other day, that many times the data are conflicting with each other, and interpretation is difficult. The framework I want to propose has been borrowed from the labor accounting framework, which was actually developed by Ivan Hoffman in the late 80s. And the ideas there, I think, are useful for dealing with these disparate sources of international labor migration. Now, the idea is this, that when you have many sources, you have to make sense of it, out of it. And one way of doing is to be systematic, how you deal with multiple sources. Here listed are 4 steps. First, the compilation of the data sources, compiling them. Where are they? Listing them, documenting them, which is basically what has been done during the last 3 days. Mostly, it was description of existing sources. But the next step is the comparison of these data sources. And by comparison, it means to analyze the differences in scope, in concepts and definitions. Where are the strengths? Where are the limitations? In a quantitative way. And the third step, which is the main step, is to reconcile these differences with numbers. And I want to propose a way of reconciling these different sources. And the core of my talk will be on this reconciliation. And finally, is to balance and make a decision, which at the end, finally, is a judgmental evaluation of the data sources to make a judgment of which combination is not which source, which combination of source is the one that one would like to adopt and consider as the best estimate. Now, I try to put these points into mathematical format so that one can understand it better. Now, against each of these steps, compilation, comparison, reconciliation, balancing, there are some underlying it, some tables, some statistical tables. I called A tables, those tables that come from different sources, independently of each other. These are, I call them A tables. A table from Ministry of Labor, a table from Labor Force Surveys, a table from Population Census, and so on, or a set of tables from each source. But all are intended to measure one concept, one general concept, and that I call the universe. Here, for example, it would be international migrant, the stock of international migrant workers category A or category B, or return international migrants, or for work, those that have been discussed by Hakli Özel as part of the ILO guidelines. Then, once you have this data, these tables, these A tables, you start comparing them. And I propose a pairwise comparison. And this framework for comparing them produces what I call B tables. And I will discuss how you construct this, and I will show how you construct these B tables. Then, once you have the B tables, that means you have next to each other pairwise the data from different sources, from 2 sources in each case, you start playing with it, adding, deducting with a purpose. And these new tables, I call them C tables, the reconciled tables, where basically what you are doing, and I will show, is adding and deducting elements from each of the sources so that you get closer and closer to the universe U, but at the same time, you minimize the difference of the reconciled data from these two sources. So there is a clear aim of what to do. And again, there will be two examples of that. And finally, the D tables are the tables that you consider at the end, which are a subset of the C tables, or one or two of them, is the one that you consider is, for the moment, the best estimate of the universe you want to measure. Now, in the case of international labor migration, I will discuss mostly on the international migrant workers category A, that is the resident international migrant workers. I have a few statements here on the category B, that means the non-resident foreign workers, and the flow of for-work international migrants and the flow of return international migrant workers, and stock of native-born persons and citizens working abroad, which is actually not yet developed. But these issues I am not discussing here, but similar concepts can be applied. Now, in the case of the stock of international migrant workers, category A, basically, and we have seen the last 3 days, a lot of time is spent on the stock of international migrant in the first place, which is the base, is the universe U. And then, in order to get to the international migrant workers, we have to get the stock of international migrant of working age, and then the stock of international migrant workers in the third step. So I will follow these three, and I will start, and most of my talk will actually be on the stock of international migrants. Now, the A table, B table, C table, D table were basically concerned with aggregate data. That means you have your data that you are dealing with are tables. That means aggregates. But in some cases, especially when you have in countries with developed administrative data and survey undertakings, you can actually do a much harder combination of data at the individual level, the individual record. And the framework which I have put here is the following. You have two characteristics of your universe is based on two characteristics. Characteristics A, characteristics B. For example, in the case of international labor migration, characteristics A is to be a migrant. Characteristic B will be to be in the labor force of the country, and the combined will be the international migrant worker category A. My description of example 1 and example 2 are not very good, but because I should have put A, international migrant. That means migrant status, but I think I will correct that. And I will show an example of this in the case of Switzerland, where you have two files, one file on one characteristics, one file on the other characteristics, and you can match them together and then deal with the part which cannot be matched. And I will show you how it works in the case of Switzerland. Now let me show the methodology that we used for Turkey on combining data sources to measure the stock of international migrant workers, category A in Turkey, based on the existing sources. Now, before starting, Turkey is a very particular country because it has a lot of Syrian refugees. So we are talking here about the non-Syrians. The issue of Syrians is a separate issue, which can also be dealt with in the present way, but is not dealt in during this presentation. So I am talking about the non-Syrians, non-Syrian international migrant workers, category A in Turkey. Now, there are a lot of data sources, and here is a list of those data sources: administrative data sources, household-based surveys, establishment-based surveys in Turkey, which has been examined from the perspective of international labor migration in a paper by another ILO consultant, Meltem Dayoglu, and it is documented and available. I think available. Where each source is listed, documented, the content, the limit, and the strength of each source. And this is what let's call compilation, and there are many tables, and these are A tables. Now, based on the review made by Meltem, that means the step A, it emerged that there are 3 data sources that are the most comprehensive in measuring the non-Syrian international migrant workers in Turkey, category A. I will not perhaps repeat so many times category A. Category A are the residents. And these 3 sources, I call here X1, migration statistics, administrative sources from the Directorate General of Migration Management. Then the second source, which is comprehensive and useful for this exercise, is the address-based population register system, which was discussed the last few days. I call it X2. And X3 is the labor force survey, which is quarterly in Turkey, and I understand that it will soon become monthly, and has a very large sample size and includes questions on migration. And this is the third one. So after the study of Meltem Dayoglu, we limit our combination of data sources to 3. The rest, we will use them, but not as main sources. So the many sources of data on international labor migration, each have different usefulness. Some can be the base, some can be used for filling up the gaps, some can be used for disaggregation. So it's better to divide the sources on those that are the most important, and while not leaving the other ones outside, but leaving them apart as useful for other purposes, like filling gaps or disaggregation. So here we maintain 3. Now then we go to the C table, which means to reconcile the sources. I said 2 by 2. Here we are reconciling the administrative records from the Director General of Migration, X1, and the address space population census, which I call X2. Now, a reconciliation table looks like this. That is, it's a double entry table. On the left side, you have the one source, on the right side, the other source. Here you will see that the total from the administrative source is 5,400,000. The total from the population census is 1,500,000. There is a huge difference. But then, of course, in the reconciliation, you find out soon why there is such a big difference. Now, if you decompose the left side, that means the administrative source, you will see that 1.1 million are foreign nationals with resident or work permits. About 5,400,000 are apprehended undocumented from foreign nationals. I'm using the terminology, English version of the terminology used in Turkey. And then the big chunk are the Syrian refugees under temporary protection. And there's 3,500,000. So the main reason there is a big difference between the 5.4 million and 1.5 million from the two sources is because of the Syrian refugees. Then there are the foreign nationals under international protection. These are the people who are awaiting to be resettled, or they have applied, their application is being processed, is about 324,000. And then there is an unknown value, undocumented foreign nationals not apprehended, which I called X. Now, in order to get the closest estimate to international migrant workers, non-Syrians, for Turkey, one adds 2, 3, 5, 6 to get the number, which is in line 7, 1,879,853. This is for 2019. And then an X to it, which is the undocumented, not apprehended. From the address-based, which is on the right side, one starts again on first line, 1,500,000, but to that one should add, in order to reconcile the two, those foreign nationals who reported stay not exceeding 3 months, because these are included in the left side, and they are part of the international migrant workers, migrants. Then other foreign nationals who could not supply valid addresses, because this is an address base, so there are some who are foreign nationals, that means they are migrant, but they don't have a valid address, or they didn't provide a valid address. And then one should deduct what in Turkey is called the blue card holders, British citizen resident in Turkey. So in the line 7, one gets the reconciled value is 1,513,000 plus those two elements, Y and Z, which we don't know, and at least I didn't know, but I think we will. Turkstat will know once we ask them, and then the blue card holder, also the numbers I didn't know, but I think it exists. So now the two line 7 should be closer to each other. Once we know X, once we know Y, once we know Z, and we know T. The remaining difference, which is what I put, I call it the balancing item. So presumably by this reconciliation, the balancing item will be very small. There will be there is 360,000 already, plus something and minus something. So at the end, presumably this number will be very small. If it is not very small, then we should do more of reconciliation. If it is satisfactorily small, then we can stop the reconciliation. Now, next step, I want to change my slide, but I don't. Yeah. Now, the next step is to reconcile the labor force survey data, X3, with the reconciled part of the two original sources. So on the reconciled part comes on the right side. Here you will see 1,879,000 plus X. And then the new data source is on the left side and is the labor force survey result corresponding to that year, which I don't have here. So it's we hope to fill up all these things, but I'm talking about the framework. Now, in order to get to be able to reconcile these two sets of data, X3 with the reconciled part of X1 and X2, then we have to do some adjustment because labor force survey covers only certain category of people. It includes foreign nationals who stay or intend to stay more than 90 days, but less than 12 are not included, so they should be added. Foreign nationals not member of household within the scope of survey, that means foreign nationals who live at their work site, in garage, in hospitals, and so on, which are not residential dwellings and therefore not covered by the labor force survey, should be covered or estimated, and this is V. And then some people are in the labor force survey, which for this exercise should be deducted because we are talking about non-Syrian. And there are some Syrian refugees in Turkey who live in normal residential dwellings, and therefore, by chance, they may be covered by the sample survey of the LFS. And then again, some people may be Turkish citizens, the former Turkish citizen, but now resident in Turkey, and the blue card holder, that they may fall into the sample, and therefore it should be deducted. Now, once you do this addition and deduction, then the two numbers, again in line 6, between the reconciled of the administrative records and the population census, register-based population census, with the adjusted labor force survey result should be close to each other. Again, and this is line 7, the balancing item. Now we will do this, we hope to be, and if we didn't have this pandemic, we were supposed to fill up all these U, V, W, and S numbers and be able to assess whether this balancing item is indeed small or not. Now, once, assuming that the balancing item is small, therefore now we have reconciled these three sources, LFS, the DGMM, the administrative source, and the population census. And this now, goes to the left side of the new table, new C table, and we want to find the stock of international migrant of working age, the next step. That was the reconciled version of the estimate of the international migrants. Now, if all of those data sources had good age distribution data, which we could have done what we did before by age group, but normally this will be difficult to do by age group. So one can do it here by just taking, in this case, one can improve it, of course, by just taking the proportion of working age population in the labor force survey and apply it to the reconciled version in order to get the international migrant workers of working age. This one can improve, but for the sake of this discussion, I am presenting as a simple proportion. One can do it, of course, by male and female and so on, but it requires to do all of the C tables by male, female, or by different categories, which is not an easy thing. Already by the total, it's not very, when you do it in total, it's not very difficult. It's not very easy. Then we go, the last step will be to reach the estimate of the international migrant workers themselves. And again here, we do a reconciliation table, that means the two side tables. On the left side, on the left side, you have the reconciled version that we obtained in the preceding table. Always it goes to the left, and the new table here again is the labor force survey in order to get the workers, and here again we apply a proportion. I won't go through the procedure of that I have put for calculating the proportion of workers among the international migrant of working age, but the formula is there. Again, this can be done by male, female, and maybe other characteristics, but I don't really think it will make much difference. But the idea is this, that you have a number of sources, you study them, you compile them, you study them, you compare them, you reconcile two by two, that's very important, 2 by 2, and then and it's, in the case of international migrant workers, it's the best is that the last one is the labor force survey, if the country has a labor force survey, because this one provides the estimate part, or the fraction part of the worker status. Now, I try to put one table, one slide here, which summarize all the other tables. Now, you have the three sources: administrative source, population register based population, and the labor force survey. And I put all the X and Y's here, which says that in order to estimate the international migrant workers, non-Syrians in Turkey, category A, you need 20 items. 1, 2, 3, 6 from the DGM source, another 6 from the population census source, and 8 from the labor force survey. And the parts where there is a dash, that means these data exist at the moment. Where there is X, Y, Z, a symbol, that means we don't have this data. Either we have to get them by, for example, contacting the Ministry of Labor, the DGMM, you know, they have estimate, they have numbers on the how many have been undocumented, have been apprehended. So they maybe know that approximately how many were not apprehended. You know, like police, they know they have record of how many people, how many crimes there were, or how many people they could arrest, but they may not know how many they were not. But they usually have an idea that. Our practice is that we normally find 1 out of 10. That means if for every 100 undocumented, the 10 are apprehended, 90 are not apprehended. So using this type of information, we may be able to fill up the X, Y, Z. And some of it, we need some surveys, like international migrant workers who are living in non-residential buildings, garage, work sites, and so on. Then here again, it's possible, for example, for Turkstat, for 1 quarter to do a survey. For example, when they do listing, they do in some places where they do listing, they also do screening, so they identify for those PSUs, primary sampling units, how many international migrant workers could be found in work sites or in garage or in kiosks, living in kiosks. And then that will give you a ratio. So the point is that by doing these reconciliation tables, first you have a framework of the direction that you want to go. That means you want to expand the universe, minimize the differences, and in that process you identify the gaps and weaknesses. And the gaps is this X and Y, and then you try to estimate it. So it gives a comfortable way of proceeding rather than a chaotic way where you don't know what to do with all these numbers. Now, another example is Korea. I want to check the hour because I don't want it to go too far. In Korea, there are also, again, a whole list of data sources on international labor migration, which are listed here and was nicely presented by one of our ILO colleagues, Ji-Yoon Lee, who is also present in this workshop. Again, I use this document to choose again 3 sources as the main data sources for calculating international migrant workers. One is the register-based population census, which we had a very nice presentation during the first day of this workshop. And then the foreign register, which is also part of the is used as in the population census, register-based population census, and then the survey on immigrants and living conditions and labor force in Korea, which they have a special survey addressing immigrants. Now, I put here the data for 2015 and 2018 on each of these sources, the total. And this is the comparison part. You put the number, you put the sources, you look what is the content of the source, you look what is the order of magnitude of the dose, and then you go 1 step further, is you do the reconciliation, comparison and reconciliation. Here, in this table, you see the reconciliation between the population census and the foreign register. The population census gives 1,300,000 for 2015. And the foreign register, in its raw state, it gives 1,000,000 149, slightly less, but once you do the addition and deductions, Korean with foreign nationalities, illegally stayed foreigners, foreign arrivals, more than 3 months, and so on, then the duplicate cases, then the reconciliation is perfect, and there is the balancing item is 0. Now, this is the reason the balancing item is 0. That means the two numbers are exactly the same, because the population census in Korea is in fact doing what I have been trying to say, is doing all these additions and deductions at the individual record level, and therefore the two numbers will, by definition, be reconciled, and the population sense, the balancing item will be 0. Now, if you go to not with the third step, the third source, that means the survey of immigrants, which is a sample survey, one has to do in a different year because the survey was taken in 2018. It is on the left side of this table, and then the population census, which is the reconciled version of the two earlier sources are put on the right, and here the reconciliation is concerned with the age at first, and then with the date, because the population census, the original number is total, includes children, but the survey on immigrants' living condition and labor force is 15 years old and over, which is actually the scope that we want. And you see that once you make the adjustment on age, the numbers are much closer, 1,300,000 from the survey, 1,600,000 from the population census, both corresponding to 2018, but not the same date. Now then there are some further adjustments on for the dates, because one is 15 May, the other one of November, and this adjustment is done proportionally here at the bottom of the right side of this table, and we end up with 1,512,000 from the population census adjusted to May. And then the survey 1,530,000, which is also, of course, for May. And the balancing item is only 18,000. So you see, this is remarkable, and this shows the richness and the carefulness of the data in Korea, where the balancing items are so small. Then the next step is to get to the stock of migrant workers, and here again a simple proportion is applied. We heard the other day from our colleague from COSTAT who presented the paper, the presentation on the population census, that at the moment in Korea the population census covers actually persons, housings, and the characteristics or the detailed characteristics, including the labor force, are obtained through a survey, the long questionnaire. But we heard also the other day that there are movements to also make the labor force part as register-based. But here, we didn't have access to that, and I don't think at the moment is available. So I have used here simple ratios to get the final result on the stock of international migrant workers. Okay, then a few minutes left. I will be discussing on estimation of the category B. Unfortunately, I couldn't find anything on this issue regarding the countries that we are covering in this workshop, the Asia countries. But there is ample information in European countries, and particularly Switzerland, where, as you probably know, there are a lot of non-resident foreign workers, especially in the border cities of like Geneva, like Basel, where many people live in France or in Germany and then commute every day to Switzerland to work. So these are non-resident foreign workers, and one particular category of them is the frontier workers, which in Switzerland, in the French, they call them frontaliers. And we are all people who live in Geneva, we are all know them. Hagge Ozer also mentioned about them as, for example, those who, many of the nurses in the hospital in Geneva are frontaliers. That means they are French citizens, living resident, also French resident, and then moving every morning to Geneva to work in the hospital and returning. And it's not only in the hospitals, but even bus drivers, even in restaurants. We face frontaliers every day, and from the numbers I know, it's in Switzerland, out of a population of about 8 million, there are about 400,000 frontaliers. Now, so therefore, Switzerland has a method to estimate them. In fact, up to 2015, they had a similar method of combining data sources, which I will describe. And then since 2015, they have changed their methodology, and they do it at the individual level, which I will also briefly show. Now, the way it's done here, the combination of data sources is there are some benchmark data, because the data are needed not only once, they are needed as a time series every year or every quarter, but I think mostly every year. So the benchmark data are the census of enterprises, which is collected every 3 or 4 years. And in the census of enterprise, there is a question on how many frontaliers, this is the category B of us, are working in different enterprises, but only in the secondary and tertiary sectors. It doesn't cover agriculture. It doesn't cover also domestic services. It doesn't cover international organizations and the self-employed. Then there is administrative records, which includes all of them, which is part of the information system on migration, which includes the primary sector, agriculture, domestic services, and so on. But actually the numbers there are the numbers is the authorization, how many authorizations were issued. So some of these people may actually not be working, but the permission for working was issued. So one has to make proper adjustment for that. Then these are benchmark data, but then we have quarterly data from establishments and from administrative records. From establishment survey, you also get estimates of the frontalier. but only in the secondary and tertiary sector, and also excluding domestic, because the establishment survey is based on the sampling frame of the Census of Enterprise, which do not cover them. But then you have the administrative records that do cover them, but they are, again, in the administrative record, it's not the number of persons, it's the number of authorizations. Now, the question is very simple. In the establishment survey, in question 1B, it is the French version. Unfortunately, you have French, Italian, and German. You don't have the English versions. So I have put the French version. In question 1B, the question is how many persons are engaged in this enterprise, male, female, full-time, part-time, and then total, and then of whom, how many are frontalier, of foreign nationality, that means foreign citizen. And again, distinguish between male, female, and total. And then there is, as you notice here, there is a little box which says there is no frontalier. Now, the issue is that some of these numbers are badly filled. And some of these numbers do not, for example, male, female, do not match to total. And also some numbers are do not match with previous reporting of the same establishment. And also there are a lot of missing values. So these are all adjusted with the weights system in the enterprise survey. And then one gets from the enterprise survey every quarter an estimate of the foreign workers, that means the frontalier, for the scope of the survey, which here is Y1 with a hat. And this is compared with the estimate from the administrative record, the system of migration management, Y1. And then the two do not correspond. So the ratio is used to apply to those parts which the establishment survey does not cover. So, because the administrative record do cover them, the people who work in agriculture, domestic services, international organizations, and independent self-employed people, the Y2 in the right, you can get this number from the system of migration, the administrative records, but they are not accurate. So that's why you make the adjustment using the census, the establishment survey, because those are accurate. These are people who are working. The other ones are people who have authorization for working. And then you just use that ratio for the part which the establishment survey is not covering. So this is what has been done in Switzerland to estimate the frontaliers up to 2015. Now the methodology has changed and the sources have changed, but still is a combination of sources. You have two sources, A and B. One is the which I call A. By the way, this presentation here, this slide, is my interpretation of the paper. They don't have this mathematics, but I have put it in this form in order to be so that one can see how it can be used in other countries. You have two sources, A and B. One measures one characteristic of your universe, the other measure the other characteristics. Now, here A is those who have authorization, and it comes from the CIMIC, which is the administrative source on migration management. And then the other source is the actual workers. That means those for whom the employer has paid for that quarter the Social Security, and in Switzerland it's called ABS, the insurance for old age and survivor insurance. So these are the B concerns about actual workers, like the establishment survey, but here is from the administrative records. And A is the authorized. And again, you match them. And in Switzerland, it's possible to match because there are reliable unique identifiers. Now, if a person is found in both files, A and B, then it's counted. If it is not, then that means it is in the person is in A. That means it has authorization, but you could not find the person in the administrative record of the insurance. Now, this person still may be working because young people below 18, as well as certain people above 65 and 64, and the self-employed do not necessarily need to make contributions to the insurance system. So these people are not covered by B, but in principle, they are covered by A because they have authorization, but they are not being seen as worker in the administrative record of the insurance system. So here, the trick is instead of putting 0, that means that they are not international migrant workers, you put a P, a probability that they are, a proportion that they are. And then you estimate that P so that it matches the proportion of 18 years old, the proportion of 65 years old, and the self-employed, which is in the insurance system, in the authorization system data, because there you have all of them. So I found this very, very appealing. It's very simple, and it is it gives seems to give reliable numbers. In any case, Switzerland has now switched to this system because they consider that more reliable than the one based on establishments. Now, finally, my last slide is that when somebody makes an assessment of the various sources on international labor migration, the first thing, when that person make the list of data sources, they should distinguish between those that are for measurement of stock or measurement of flow. It's important. But as I said, some of the sources later, you can use them for stock or you are using, but at least in paper, this distinction is made. In fact, this was also the way that the ILO guidelines in paragraph 36 is presented. Then, the other thing that should be done when describing a source or describing all the sources is not just to list them in a wild way, but in an orderly way. Also to say, to put all those that have wide coverage, one part, and those who have limited coverage, the other part. So because the sources who have limited coverage have different roles. They cannot be the base for estimation. They are the base for adjustments or for disaggregation. And then when one person makes a documentation, then there should be some table, some quantification of these different sources, so that one gets an idea of the order of magnitude. And of course, if one goes one step further, also do the reconciliation, then of course it's better. So these are, my conclusion basically is that it's possible to combine data sources in many countries if one looks at it in a careful way, either using tables or even better with macro data. If some preliminary work has been done, that means that the different sources have been properly described. Those that have are stocks are distinguished from flows. Those that are wide coverage and those have limited coverage are distinguished. And then one can start doing the reconciliation and identifying which are the categories that are needed to make the combination of the data sources. And a successful combination is when you reach closest to the universe, the total, with minimum balance. That is the test of success in the combination of data sources. So I will stop on this, and I hope it's, I am a few minutes maybe taken more, but I can address questions if necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Marin, for sharing great information. We still have 10 or so minutes allowed for your presentation, so if you want to take this opportunity to share some additional aspects or your personal experience, that would be great. Otherwise...
Okay, I will do so, because I had different instructions. At one point, it was 1 hour and a half to 9:30, then 1 hour. Now you just, when the moderator, when I make announcement, they put to 8:50. So I understand. That's why I rushed into, but no, thank you for giving me the opportunity. One thing I want to say, taking advantage of these few minutes, it's not about international labor migration. It's about statistics. I really think that, and I'm addressing to all young people, but also not so young people, that really statistics is the queen of science. I'm not saying it's the king of science. I'm saying it's the queen of science, because by itself is very boring. But in combination with real life subject, it becomes fascinating. And international labor migration, I think, is the combination. That means statistics combined with international labor migration, then it becomes fascinating. So many issues are brought, and statistics can help to solve that. So I'm thankful to Hakkı Özel, who is here, to bring me into this subject, because my experience in ILO has been always on labor force, and employment and unemployment, and to some extent informal sector and informal employment. But after retirement, Hakkı Özel asked me to get involved into international labor migration, and I feel indebted, even though at the moment I don't pretend to know much. I'm learning. And in fact, that's why I'll be learning from your questions and your comments. Thank you very much, moderator.
Thank you. So I received two questions, from Mr. P. Rath from India, and requests for comments from Ms. Lee Ms. Jian Lee from ILO. So I'll first give the floor to Mr. P. Rath and then give the floor to Jian Lee. So Mr. P. Rath, you can take the floor now for your question.
Yeah, thank you. And that is a very wonderful presentation. And actually, the balance is very less, and that is truly 18,000 balance means that's a great thing. And that speaks a lot about your authenticity and the real good work done on that. But I have two quick clarifications actually. How do you define the labor force? Does it include the persons seeking employment? This is my first question. And the second is, what is the quantum of missing values? Actually, I'm a bit confused between two words. One is frontier workers and is frontier worker. I don't know if I am wrong. You may please clarify what is that and what is the quantum of missing values in case of these frontier workers? That's my question. Thank you. I can't hear you.
Yeah, do you hear me? Should I answer now?
Yes, yes, please.
First, according to the on the labor force, according to the ILO guidelines, international migrant worker category A and category B includes all people who have labor attachment to the country of measurement. Now, labor attachment for the residents means labor force, and for the that means to be part of the labor force of the country. This is category A. Those who are not in the labor force of the country, but have labor force attachment, that means they are working or seeking work in a country in which they are not resident. They are also considered as international migrant worker, category B. So labor force and labor attachment are different terms, but they convey the same thing. That means working or employed or looking for employment. Now, regarding frontier workers, the frontalier is the French version of frontier workers. Frontier workers, again, is defined in the ILO guidelines. These are people who have authorization to foreign people, that means foreign residents, who have authorization in the country to either work or look for work. In fact, the authorization is about working, not looking for work, but it doesn't spell out the word looking, but it is implicit. So it is the number of people, is the people, frontier workers, those people who have authorization to work in the country, even though they are not resident. And there is a text which I don't remember exactly the thing, but there is a definition. And the French version is called frontalier. These are, in other earlier language, it was cross-border workers, people who cross borders. But there are some who do not necessarily have authorization. They come and go. And this is why in the ILO guideline, these are called itinerant workers or seasonal workers. These are people who are not resident of a country, but come and go, not necessarily with authorization. And in fact, we are trying to, with Turkstat, we are trying to estimate find a methodology to estimate them in northern part of Turkey, the Black Sea area, those workers from Georgia or Azerbaijan who come to Turkey to work in the hazelnut plantations. We took that as an example to see how the methodology can be done. We are trying to use a time location sampling of this because we don't have administrative records because they are not necessarily authorized. So, but here I have presented only based on estimation of the phenomena based on combination of sources, not based on new methodology like time location sample. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I tried.
Yes. Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. At this point, I have two more requests for questions from the floor. So let me take all the questions first. First, Ms. Nirina, you can take the floor for your two questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Farhad, for your excellent and very informative presentation. I hope this can be turned into a paper for publication later at some point, because I think more people would like to benefit from this innovative methodology. I have just two very quick questions. The first one, do you think that this reconciliation methodology, using the example of Switzerland, can be less reliable in regions like Geneva, where there are a lot of people working for those international organizations? Because if I understand well, they would be in the CIMIC records, but they won't contribute to the AVS because they have this particular insurance scheme with their own organization. So that's the first question. And then the second one is about the Turkey case. So using the P, when you calculated the share of working age people in the foreign population, so you use the P from the ABPRS. So is there a particular reason for that? Is it because it's seen as more the more complete and more precise one? Because I think it can also, if my understanding is correct, be calculated from the other sources. And have you tried to compare those three Ps, and how do you see that the gaps are, I mean, the discrepancies are between the three Ps from the three different sources? Thank you.
Thank you. Very good questions. On Switzerland and Geneva in particular, yes, the methodology is applied also to Switzerland, to Geneva, and gives reliable data. In fact, because in Geneva there are also lots of international workers working in international organizations, there is good record of them. So although they are not covered by AVS, because ILO people, for example, ILO does not contribute to the social security of its staff through the AVS system of Switzerland, but it has its own. But the record is there, and they just add them. They just get those numbers and add them. So I think at least what it's written, it's that these people are covered. The challenge is with the self-employed, and the challenge is with those who are in agriculture, and this is more difficult because there is no good record. But the one from was excluded from the establishment survey and the AVS system, but it's not excluded from the authorization. You know, you, Nirina, you are not only recorded into the system of ILO, you are also recorded into the system of Switzerland, where in the CIMIC, I'm sure your name is there, that you are authorized to work at the ILO. Now, regarding the different Ps in Turkey, Yes, it's a very good question. It shows that you have been attentive at looking at the headings of the tables. Yes, when I went from international migrant worker, reconciled table from international migrant worker to working age, I used the address-based source of population census of Turkey for finding the proportion of working age people. Because I thought that address-based is a more reliable estimate, gives a more reliable estimates of the share of the working age people on total than the labor force, which itself, it covers only people who are in residential housing. But the address base is based on all, whether they are in residential building, but as long as they have an address. So that's why I used the P. I didn't compare, to tell you the truth. I used the P from the population, register-based population census, and the proportion of labor force I used from labor force survey, because I thought that is a more reliable estimate for the proportion in the labor force. And the other one is more reliable for the working age. So I hope I have answered those two questions.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you both. Next, the floor goes to Mr. Garrick Sahakian from Armenia.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. And thank you very much for the presentation. It's really very interesting methodology. And one comment and one question. One question, the comment, and the comment is regarding to the self-employed. Comment is regarding to Armenia because the self-employment procedure sometimes is easy than the purchase of the work permit. And it's important, I think, for Armenia, for the future, it's a topic to discussion. And the question is regarding to the self-employed, job seekers, job seekers from, for immigration. I want to understand how we can identify who is the job seeker. Maybe you have your point of view, or maybe there is an international experience, because from side of the Armenia, we cannot see who is the really job seeker. Is it understandable?
No. Yeah, I think I understand.
Thank you.
Should I address the questions?
Yeah, I finished my question. Thank you.
Now, on the self-employed, I think you mean the international migrant worker who is self-employed.
Yes.
The international migrant worker who is self-employed in Azerbaijan. Now, the international, the way at the moment I have presented, for example, for Turkey, for Korea, is that we first get the reconciled table on international migrants. So presumably that person, he will be somehow included into the reconciled data. Then we get the self-employed, we get the labor force participation rate from the labor force survey, apply it to this total, rather than calculate directly the international migrant workers through administrative records, because I think that is much more difficult. It's easier to have a good base and then apply a ratio rather than get the pieces on the worker side, because many countries do not have good data, administrative data on working, even through work permits. There are lots of deficiencies and difficulties. So the approach I am proposing is that concentrate on the base and then apply a ratio from, in this case, population, labor force survey. Now, the self-employed foreign worker, foreign self-employed in Turkey is presumably covered by the labor force survey of Turkey, and therefore in the labor force participation rate that is obtained from the survey includes that person. So this is how I am proposing to deal with the worker part. I agree that many countries do have work permits data and so on, but my feeling is that they are not good enough for calculating international migrant workers. So it's better to concentrate on international migrants, because that we have much more data and much more, I think, more reliable, up-to-date data. And then apply ratios. So this is how, so the self-employed comes that way. Now, regarding job seekers abroad, we haven't really addressed that. We have dealt with international migrant workers, for work international migrants. That means those people who have applied to go out. Like in Bangladesh, we have. I have been involved into studying this. For those people who apply in order to go outside Bangladesh, in India, in many of them in the Gulf, in Singapore, in Malaysia, they have to get a clearance. So somehow they have looked for work already through recruitment and systems and so on. And then at the last minute, at the last step, they have to apply for clearance to get out. These become then the for work international migrants. And again, we don't have, I don't think even the concept exists at the moment in the international labor migration guidelines of the ILO about job seekers seeking job abroad. We have implicitly the concept of citizens working abroad, native borns working abroad, but we don't have even the concept at the moment, citizens seeking work abroad. And maybe Hakkı Özel may want to comment on this. But this concept, I think, doesn't exist at the moment in the international guidelines. We only have the people who are working abroad, not the people who are seeking work abroad.
Okay, if you finished, okay, thank you very much. Regarding to the self-employed, I'm totally agree with you. And regarding to the job seekers, you mentioned the problems that I thought about that. Of course, in some countries there are some mechanisms to identify and to register job seekers, even though for immigration, for emigration. But for Armenia, there is no such, how to say, mechanism to register them. But I think it's important data. Important data. This is also, I said that I'm totally agree with you that you mentioned that it's a problem. That was my question.
Thank you. I noted your question and the idea of, I will discuss it with Mr. Özel, the idea of job seekers abroad.
not only job seekers abroad, even though job seekers already in obtained country I mean regarding to the immigration.
Oh, that we have
This is-
estimated. That there is no problem. In the labor force survey,
Yes.
we do get the unemployed foreign workers who are looking for work. We do get that. So that is, I think.
No, I think you are looking at that, but there is no resources to identify and to collect data. I mean, that is the problem.
Labor force survey that do give estimates of that. Now, whether they are reliable or not. Administrative
Okay.
records,
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Farhat, well, thank you, Mr. Garik Sakian, for your intervention. I think this is, we didn't thought of this. And as Mr. Mehran said, we would be happy to discuss internally and see how we can go on this issue as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your interruption, Mr. Haki Ozul. So this will wrap up our session 9, and it's time to move on to session 10, and we can discuss more freely in session 10. We actually had a request for the additional comments on the Korean case from Ms. Lee Ji-yeon from ILO, but I think we can briefly do it at the beginning of session 10 maybe. So session 10 is discussions about the possibilities of using the measurement approach presented in session 9 by the countries. As I said at the beginning, we expect your active sharing of ideas and experiences in this session. And to facilitate our discussion, Mr. Haki Ozul will be chairing this session. And Mr. Haki Ozul, it's my personal ask for you to invite Ms. Jian Lee at the beginning of your session. So with that, let me invite Mr. Haki Ozul.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hanship. I think it would be good to listen our colleague Jian because she has some comments on the presentation made by Farhat Mehran. Yes, please, over to you, Jian.
Can you hear me?
No, we cannot hear you.
Oh, hello? Hello?
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, thank you, Haki.
Actually, Ms. Lee?
Keep your mic a little bit closer, please, because it's very weak.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, better.
Okay, thank you. This is an additional comment about Dr. Mehran's Dr. Mehran's presentation. So first, may I say how much I enjoyed your presentation, Dr. Mehran? I really enjoyed your presentation, and so it's very thankful. And then thank you for citing my research article in your work. And it is a really draft version of the paper. Still, I am working on it. So even I haven't made a conclusion on the paper yet, but you cited this one. And then I think it is the perfect time to revise my paper according to your comment and my explanation. I have some slides, just one or two slides to share to clarify the Korean case study. So I want to try share the. Can you see? Can you see my slide?
Yeah. Go ahead,
Okay,
please.
thank you. Okay. Dr. Mehran addressed the issue of coverage difference between census register and the census and survey of immigrant, and also census and international migrant statistics. I would like to give some additional information to clarify Dr. Mehran's remarks in first graph in this slide. Because of the time limit, he just skipped this slide in his presentation today, but it was. So it is in the red colored box. The estimated the monthly net increase of the foreign population in 2017 and 2018 is 14,360, maybe compared with the corresponding estimate of the net inflow of the foreign migrants based on international migrant statistics 10,830. The first number, 14,000, comes from the census. The later number, 10,000, came from the international migrant statistics. Yeah, let's look at the next slide. Maybe this slide show how show the monthly net migration figure from 2017 to 2018 in international migration statistics. Both register-based census and IMS use the arrival and departure card statistics from the immigration office. Also, two statistics use the same rule as a 3 months residency rule by using different angle. One is the measure the stock, another one is measure the flow. According to the IMS, total land migration in 2018 was about 130,000 or 10,000 per month. According to the census, increase in the foreign population during the same period was during between 2017 and 2018 was 172,000 or 14,000 per month. This is the two number comes from the Dr. Meran pointed out this discrepancy between census and IMS in his presentation. But I didn't mention the discrepancy in my paper, but Dr. Meran raised this issue. So maybe it is to look at the what's going on. I think it will be a right thing. We should compare between the total number of net migration between two census periods, last November to this October, because the census is November. First day of November is the census day, and increase in the foreign population stock during the same period, not a physical calendar year. So that number is 1,000. So actual difference between the census and IMS is 10,000 a year. It is quite, I think it is a really good number and then since total foreign population was 1.6 million in Korea in that year, the consistency rate between two statistics was at least about 99.3%. It is almost perfect number. But we still have the 1,000 person is missing or overcounted population over there. Yeah, it's true. So maybe we should look at why this kind of discrepancy is happening. So, but among the 10,000 person, 5,388 could be explained by the number of foreign impang, those who less than 1 year old in the foreign register. Because the population increased by not only the number of net migration, but also increased by the birth. So this one is explained it. And another one should be the change of nationality during the same time. It is possible. And the final one is it's not only this kind of this statistics, but the annual migration flow data is a time-related event history data. So it is always subject to the censoring effect during the measuring time. Because someone's first migration is censored because the measurement period, it happened before the measurement period. And then someone's last migration experiences also can be censored because it is happened after the measurement period. But there is no monthly fluctuation of the migration. Maybe the censoring effect doesn't matter because they show the same number. But actually, we saw this graph with every month, every year, there has a fluctuation in the migration flow. It caused so 1 year is maybe 1 year difference is between migration stock data, flow data is come to the plus, and the next year minus, and next year plus and minus. This kind of censoring effect or delayed or postponement of this kind of measurement problem is happening in the year. So I think the 0.35 difference or 10,000 per month per a year is not a big deal, but it shows that there is always a discrepancy between population stock data and population flow data, even if very high quality data that we have. So I want to call this kind of activity as a statistical exercise to solve the discrepancy between two numbers. But Dr. Meran also called this one is called the reconciling activity. I totally agree with that. And then I hope today our discussion will give some hint to those who are struggling with the discrepancy between the migrant stock and flow data. Also those who are looking for the constructing statistical foreign register. Maybe we used to look at what's going on and we needed what kind of information we needed and what kind of information we should check each other kind of thing. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jian. Now you can close your screen. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Dr. Mehran, for your kind words. I know Farhad Mehran since 1986. I learned a lot from him, and we are still learning from him. He is no doubt, he's a guru on this area, and as a labor statistician, we all are grateful to him. I cannot really, we may need another, workshop sessions to really appreciate his contribution. And I'm happy that despite the fact that we urge a little bit him reluctantly, he found himself in this area. So that I'm happy that, also he's enjoying and showing us the beauty of this merging statistics with the issue of migration. In this session, as Farhad mentioned in his presentation about the strategy of the ILO, this document, it talks about two issues, two approaches. One is the analyzing of the existing data sources in a systematic way, harmonized way. And this is the beauty of this. So far, there are so many data sources that have not been used properly for the purpose of labor migration in a coherent, systematic way. So this approach gives us this opportunity to use the existing data in the country. But also strategy talks about the development and testing new approach, new methodologies as well. As also Farhad mentioned, this is also part of the strategy. And for Turkey, we are thinking of, testing this approach, one of the approaches on the migrant workers category 14B in hazelnut harvesting. And also we have another study going on in Philippines. We would like to have the second approach, test the second approach in Philippines as well. So as I said in the first day in my presentation, we would like to hear from you, from each of you, from each of the participant countries, to see whether this approach can be used in your country. If yes, how this can be done, and what would be your suggestion? Of course, we know that, you are not in authority to give a promise to do so, but we would like to hear from you to what extent it is possible to do this in your country, and if you would be willing to use the strategy in your country. So now I would like to go in an alphabetic way from and would like to make a tour de table and ask each of the country. First, Armenia. I would like the colleagues from Armenia, what do they think? Very quickly, in 2 sentences, what do they feel? And whether they are willing or this can be done in Armenia as well. And then we'll go to Azerbaijan, Bangladesh in turn. Yes, please. Losing or Garik, who will be taking the floor?
Hello, everybody. I am really lucky to meet all of you. Thank you for this very interesting workshop, as always. And regarding to your suggestion, you know, we always interested in doing something new to enrich what we have, to improve our knowledge. But this time we are very overloaded with different projects. That's why for this year or next year, maybe it will not be possible. This is my like opinion for now. But what will happen tomorrow, I can't promise anything. But in general, we always very happy to do something new.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We are grateful your contributions always to the workshop and to the ILMS database as well. And now I would like to ask the colleagues from Azerbaijan, what do they think? Are they willing to do so, or can this be done in Azerbaijan?
Can you hear me?
Very weak. Hello?
Is it because of network? I'm so sorry.
Sorry, I can hardly hear you.
It's because of...
Maybe you need to get closer to the mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Please go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Okay. As you also know, we are getting information on migrants only from the administrative data. So unfortunately, current structure of the LFS doesn't allow us to get employed foreign-born, employed native-born, employed non-citizens, citizens, these status for migrants. So of course, we have got good wills to add this new methodologies, which speakers already noted during these 4 days. I will do my best, what I can do. I will send all these presentations to the relevant institutions. I hope it will give the productive results in soon time. That's all.
Thank you. Please also keep in mind, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. No, yes, please
Okay,
go.
fine. Thank you very much. Basically, when the beauty of this project also, when you implement, it allows you to see the weakness of the tools that you are using. For example, in terms of labor force surveys, there are certain set of questions that are recommended by the ILO to be included in the labor force survey as well. So if this project is implemented, this will also give opportunity to country identify the weak areas in terms of labor migration statistics in the survey or in survey 2. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And then we go to Bangladesh. Mr. Azimuddin?
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Very well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege and honor to be the part of this great workshop last 4 days. I think through this workshop, especially I have learned a lot from the discussion and the presentation made by the speaker it is very informative and very rich presentation. And actually this learning from this workshop, I will try my best in future to do better in the labor statistics or labor migration statistics. Actually, as you know, Bangladesh is a labor surplus country, and hope to see some of you, not virtually, really in future. And thank you so much for inviting us or getting us into this workshop as a partner. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your remarks, and hopefully, I mean, we are working with Bangladesh very closely on, again, you know, in SDG, etc. So we hope that we keep working together on this issue as well. Can I hear from Bhutan, Mr. Tandin?
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Tandin Doji. I work with the National Statistics Bureau under the Survey and Data Processing Division. So this is my first virtual conference attending on this international labor migration statistics. For that, I would like to thank ILO and Korea Statistics for successfully conducting this virtual conference globally. With regard to the question on the international labor migration, here in Bhutan, the data on the international labor migration is collected through administrative records. We have different agencies who are collecting this data. We have Department of Immigration, Ministry of Labor and Human Resources, and some other agencies who are collecting this data. And from our side, we'll try to provide the data, the available data in the country. But I cannot promise and assure anything at the moment, as I do not have the authority. So as per the sheet provided, we have been providing the available data in the country as in the past as well. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, from Fiji, Ms. Amelia, and then Georgia. Ms. Amelia, please go ahead. Fiji. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Greetings from Fiji. Yes, personally, I would like to, on behalf of Fiji States, I would like to thank the ILO and COSTES for giving us this opportunity to participate on this ILMS workshop. All the presentations from the presenters were excellent and informative. I would like to comment on the question, actually on the measurement of the international labor stats, international labor migration statistics. Currently, we're actually not compiling that. Like for us, the various agencies are doing their own compilation of the data collection, compilation, and disseminations. For us stats, we are mostly focusing on the international visa arrival stats, the arrival and departure data. The source is Immigration Department. But recently, we had the new collaboration between the Fiji Bureau of Statistics and International Organization of Migration and other stakeholders. We managed to compile the migration profile report for Fiji, and currently the report is with our Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Economy for endorsement. we still are like for us Fiji, we are facing some kind of challenges in compilation of the international labor migration due to capacity, the policy requirements and reviewing, the lack of collaboration between the department and line ministries and resources, manpower, and etc. But yes, maybe international labor migration, the office based in Fiji, we could collaborate together and maybe we can collect the required data or the data on international labor migration stats. And maybe my colleague, this chief statistician, Ms. Tungi, wants to add on whatever I've commented. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Tungi, do you have anything to add? No. And then Georgia, Ms. Mariana Chalonga.
Yes, sir. I want to add on to
Oh, Ms. Tungi. Okay, please go ahead. Sorry, Mariana. Let's wait. Ms. Tungi, yes, please.
Yes, thank you, sir. A big level thank you to all the presenters. The presentation for the last 3 days, including today, was very informative, very detailed. In case of Fiji, yes, it's already been mentioned by my colleague. There are different data sources across the line ministries and various agencies in terms of collaborations and working together on achieving the labor migration statistics. We're still working on collaborations. Different agencies have different rules and guidelines in terms of data sharing. And that's something that the National Statistics Office of Fiji are moving forward in signing MOU or MOA with line ministries in terms of data sharing. Yes, this is something that we are keen to learn and we're keen to collect and publish in future in terms of labor migration statistics. Once again, from Fiji, thank you so much for the very informative presentation, Vinak.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tungi. Now, Mariana Chalonga from Georgia, please.
Hello, everyone. I would like also to thank the presenters today for their very informative presentations. I'm sorry for the last 10 minutes. We had urgent publication, so I was a bit distracted. Sorry, could you please again tell your question? I'm sorry.
I know because Dr. Mahara presented the strategy of the ILO, in which there were two methodologies. The one was about using the existing administrative and all the survey or census related data on migration. And the second strategy is to develop new methodologies for to fill the existing gaps and for the other types of migration for which methodology does not exist. So the question is Georgia willing to conduct this strategy in Georgia as well and implement this methodology and collaborate with the ILO?
Well, as from our NSO, there are two departments included in this in filling this questionnaire, which is labor statistics division from social statistics department and our department. I think we need to collaborate in this issue, discuss together, and then we will make decision.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now from India, Mr. Rat or Ms. Singh, who will take the floor?
Yeah, may I?
Yes, please. And
okay, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to say that it's my privilege for being a part of this workshop, and I really thank ILO team for giving me this opportunity. All the presentations so far in this workshop, including today's presentation, they were all really informative and very useful. And with the illustrations and examples, and they were really useful. Covering a wide dimension of the international labor migration. In India, so far, I'm not sure if any work has already been initiated in this aspect, but definitely there are a lot of administrative data which could be tapped upon. And for that, in fact, I feel that it would have been better if we had a participant from the Ministry of External Affairs also in this workshop, as the arrival, departure, the inflow, outflow, all those parameters would definitely be there in the administrative database. As far as the labor force survey is concerned, so far the foreign nationals are excluded from its coverage. And so from that aspect, it may not be feasible at present from the questionnaire to be able to get data on this aspect. In fact, recently a block has been added for addressing the migration particulars for from the point of view of COVID. So, but the data is yet to be analyzed and processed. So, on the whole, I think, I mean, we cannot commit at the moment, but definitely someone has to take the lead for tapping all the administrative data sources that are available. So that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I know that there are more than one colleagues from some of the countries, and if the other colleagues would like to contribute, please feel free. For India, I see, we have 2 participants.
Yeah, actually,
please go ahead.
What Madam Reena Singh said, I fully support that thing. And secondly, actually, just I wanted to add something. I represent the line ministry, and that conducts census in India. So in census questionnaire, we are having the questions for migration statistics, the migration by place of birth and by place of last residence. And that also include the migrants from outside to India. Those are coming, the immigrants to India, the international immigrants. And but we also publish the data in an aggregated manner. That is one thing, and whatever data is available, released, and that is in public domain, that is open to all. So that is one thing I wanted to add, whatever Madam said, and she is very correct that one has to take the lead in this matter, and what exactly can be done can be looked into. So that's the point. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, please.
I'm Dr. Shalja from
Hi.
India. My friends said contributed all the points. Only I'd like to thank ILO and Korea Stat for giving me an opportunity to participate in the workshop, which was very informative and which has covered the various dimensions of international migration. And as Ms. Singh said about the international migration is being looked after by Ministry of External Affairs, and the records are being maintained by the Ministry of External Affairs as well as Ministry of Overseas Affairs also. So if we'll include that ministry, that will be more beneficial in future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well noted. And then we move to Iran and then to Kazakhstan. Iran, please go ahead. Our colleague.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Thanks to ILO and Questat for holding this workshop. It was my first experience, and I hope to use this teaching of this workshop in my future work. I would also like to express my special thanks to Dr. Farhad Mehran, who is always with us and our guide, and for the very useful presentation today that he provided. In my opinion, in countries such as Iran that have several legislative organizations, they should also be invited to participate in this workshop for more cooperation between the NSO and other decision-making and effective organizations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Iman. Then we move to Kazakhstan and then Korea. Bakhtu from Kazakhstan, or Nurlan. Sorry, Nurlan is from Kazakhstan. Khair Rispayev. I think we don't hear from Kazakhstan. As regards for Korea, we have already collaborating, I think, but we would be happy to hear if they have any comments, suggestions. Other than, then we will move to Kyrgyzstan. From Korea, any remarks? No, okay.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, please, Mr. Yanshin. Mr. Yanshin, please go ahead.
Actually, we are going. We organized this workshop jointly with the IRO, and actually yesterday, Mr. Rim presented our status of using administrative data. Yeah. So actually, in Korea, Static Korea is using many administrative data by producing the census data and then other statistics. So, but at this moment, if we have a chance to cooperate with IRO's the new framework, we will have an internal discussion with the labor statistics division, and then so I will let you know that situation. Actually, we already presented our part,
yes,
so I didn't
correct.
prepare my answer.
True.
But yes, thank you
Well,
so much. Yes.
Thank you very much. Actually, your administration, we are already, collaborating and on this issue, and we are grateful for your efforts. But I didn't want to skip. Also, thanks so much. Now, from colleague from Kazakhstan has no microphone. He's excusing himself. We understand. No worries. And we go to now Kyrgyzstan. Ms. Nurlan. No, we cannot hear. Then we go to Nepal.
Hello, good afternoon from third
Hi,
of
Mr.
the
Tiwari. Yes, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon and greetings from third pole of the old Nepal. Regarding the issue, Nepal has very weak administrative data. Census do not cover all ILMS data. So we cannot rely on population census for ILMS data. And at this moment, data combining issue is not applicable for Nepal, I think. But we are interested to conduct a new survey about COVID-19 effect on employment or job loss. If possible, please do coordinate with ILO country office Nepal for this survey. And finally, I want to thank you all presenters, ILO office, CoStat, KSPI, and all participants. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Tiwari. Well noted, and we'll get in touch with you through our country office in Nepal, Kathmandu, on this. Now we move to Pakistan, then Sri Lanka. From Pakistan, Mr. Muzammil Basra. We cannot hear you. Your mic is muted. At the very bottom of the screen on the left side, there is a mic. Yeah, right. We cannot hear you well. No, I'm sorry.
Can we come back to Nepal?
Yeah, yes, please. We go back to Nepal, and then Nepal would like to intervene again. Yes, please.
No, what I actually meant was
Okay,
can we
while
go ahead.
while the colleague from Pakistan is trying to resolve the microphone issue, we'll move to Pakistan. Sorry, to Sri Lanka, and then we'll come back to Pakistan again. From Sri Lanka, we hear.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, all of you. I'm Sita from Sri Lanka. I'm here.
Yes, we hear you. Go ahead, please.
Thanks to ILO and Koreas for joining this workshop. The program is successful and can use for our day-to-day works and improve our knowledge. We hope improve our database according to this knowledge. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Muzammil, your mic is okay now? No, we cannot still hear you. Then we'll come back to you again when you resolve the issue. We move to Turkey. Colleagues from Turkey who would like to take the floor.
Okay, I'm here, Mr. Özel. Thank you very much. We have been working on the use of administrative registers and data integration to produce statistics for a long time. On the other hand, up to the last years, we have experienced separately labor force and migration. And it's quite new for us, the topic labor migration issue. We are happy to take part in the current ILO project and the recent works done and the report prepared by Ms. Dayıoğlu will contribute to our ongoing works a lot. And we hope that our continuous cooperation and collaboration with ILO will develop our statistics more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Yılmaz. Any other colleague from Turkey would like to intervene? Or? Okay. Now we go back to Pakistan. From Pakistan, I think there is still a problem with the mic, I believe. Now from Uzbekistan. Hello. We cannot hear from anyway. Well, I think, you know, this is the difficulty of having online meeting, despite the fact that it has many features. But, you know, this is the problem. Sometimes you have a problem with mic, sometimes with to set up your computer. Sometimes you are not familiar with this tool, Zoom, because this is not the only one, there are many. So we have, we are learning ourselves also how to use, how to really communicate. It's not easy. So we are getting to the end of this workshop and getting to the closing session. So first, and let me, you know, talk a little bit and then give the floor to Mr. Gang from COSTAT, Director General for Planning and Coordination from COSTAT, if he's available. First of all, I am grateful for your participation and interest in this workshop. As I said, this is the first time we are having this online courses due to the COVID-19. But as Farhat Mehran, Dr. Mehran said, this may not be the only one. Probably this might be the usual way of meeting in the future. We'll see. And we are happy with your active participations in this workshop. I would like to thank to the COSTAT colleagues, Ms. Sok, Ms. Yang Shim Jong, and from KSPI for Ms. Sola Park for their excellent facilitating this meeting, and the presenters, Farhat Mehran and Ivan Hoffman, my colleagues Natalia Popova, Andonirina Rakotonarivo, and Jian Li, and for your really contribution. So there will be also a survey, a small questionnaire about your feedback on this workshop. We'll appreciate also if you could fill this. This will be shared by the colleagues after the meeting. We are grateful for your continuous support in keeping ILO's ILMS database powerful and updated by responding to our questionnaire, which you will receive, I suppose, next year, June 2021. So thank you very much again for all of you, for your all contribution, for which we are grateful. Now it's over to moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Haki Ozal, for your pivotal role in this last session. Now, I'll have the honor to invite our last speaker, Mr. Ki-ryong Kang, Director General for Planning and Coordination at Statistics Korea, to give his farewell remarks. Mr. Kang, please.
Hi, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. Unfortunately, I cannot attend the whole session of this STICS international workshop due to my previous engagement. At the same time, I'm very happy to speak to you at the successful conclusion of this workshop organized jointly by Statistics Korea and the ILO. This was made possible by the participants from the 17 countries who are devoted to advancing ILMS and have actively engaged in this workshop in spite of the unusual time slot of this event. This workshop put a special focus on how to use diverse sources, including administrative data, intending to shift the paradigm of statistical production in international labor migration. The numerical illustration of Korea, Turkey, and Switzerland using the ILO strategies and statistical framework for ILMS were presented during the workshop. Sharing these concrete application cases will be great help to other countries for their future production of related statistics. In addition, the workshop served as a venue to exchange experiences and learn from each other by sharing practical examples from Armenia and Turkey and Korea, which are using administrative data. I sincerely thank all of you for your contribution and participation over the past 4 days, despite your already busy schedules. I also would like to extend my special thanks to the staff members, ILO and Korea Statistics Promotion Institute for their thorough preparation in organizing this workshop. Finally, I assure you that Statistics Korea will continue cooperating with the ILO and all of you to contribute to the development of ILMS. I hope, really hope, we will be free of COVID-19 by next year and we'll be able to meet in person here in Korea. I'd like to share and upload YouTube videos. It's named Feel the Rhythm of Korea. So you can enjoy the wonderful attractions of Korea and see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kang. This concludes the 6th workshop on international labor migration statistics in Asia and the Pacific region. I sincerely thank 45 participants from 17 countries attending our workshop over the last 4 days. And to improve our future workshop, I strongly encourage you to participate in our satisfaction survey that will be sent to you soon via email. Finally, I would like to invite everyone to feel free to turn on their videos and audios and say goodbye to each other. Goodbye, everyone, and thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
좋습니다.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.